Welcome to FinsTechs from Anthony and Laura. Get ready, because we've uncovered some truly eye-opening information regarding, well, the hidden world of children's health and their bedrooms.
Yeah, it's quite something.
It turns out those seemingly innocent children's mattresses could be silently releasing some potentially harmful chemicals.
That's right.
We're about to explore what these substances are and why this is such a significant concern, especially for our little ones during their crucial developmental stages. We've sifted through several fascinating studies to bring you a focused and, frankly, rather surprising overview of this vital issue.
And what's immediately striking is the consistent pattern emerging across this research. It's not just one study.
Right.
Multiple studies are independently identifying children's mattresses as
Yeah.
a likely source of exposure to some really troubling chemicals.
Okay. Like what specifically?
Specifically, we're seeing the release of phthalates, those plasticizers we often hear about. Also, certain organophosphate ester flame retardants, and even UV filters.
Okay, phthalates. We've encountered them before, definitely. But what's their role in a mattress, and why should that raise alarm bells for us?
Well, phthalates are primarily used to make plastics more flexible, giving that softness.
Right, okay.
The worry is their well-established potential as endocrine disruptors. Think of your body's hormones as messengers.
And these chemicals interfere.
Exactly. They can mess with those messages. Research has linked phthalate exposure to a concerning range of health issues: neurological problems, reproductive issues, asthma, even cancer.
Wow, that's quite a list.
And interestingly, older mattresses seem to harbor higher concentrations of specific phthalates like DEHP and
Cytokine
BZDs.
ones. So it builds up or doesn't break down.
It kind of makes you wonder about the cumulative exposure over years.
Definitely sobering. Now, flame retardants, the intention there is safety, right?
Yeah.
Fire safety. So what's the unexpected downside?
You'd absolutely assume so. But the specific type we're seeing here, these organophosphate ester flame retardants, they're the problem. These have been linked to some serious developmental concerns. We're talking potential cognitive impairment, reduced IQ scores, behavioral issues, and an elevated risk of cancer. And here's a really surprising point.
Go on.
These particular flame retardants aren't even required by flammability standards in either Canada or the U.S.
Wait, they're not required.
Nope. Yet they're being used.
Mm.
It really begs the question why manufacturers are choosing these specific, potentially harmful substances when they don't have to, legally.
That truly makes you pause. Seriously. And UV filters. Finding those in a mattress fabric is unexpected.
Precisely. It's odd, isn't it? UV filters are typically used to protect materials from sun damage.
Right, like outdoor furniture or something.
Exactly. Their presence in mattress fabrics suggests they're being used for material preservation, maybe.
Okay.
But the concern is that they're also suspected endocrine disruptors, adding another potential layer of risk.
Another layer.
And it's quite a disconnect when you realize that many of these same chemicals, the phthalates, some flame retardants, face strict regulations or are banned outright in children's toys.
Yeah, I know they regulate toys heavily.
Yet, those protections don't necessarily extend to where children spend a huge amount of their time in their beds.
That doesn't seem right. What does that tell us about how we prioritize children's health across different product categories? It seems inconsistent.
It does raise questions, for sure.
So, okay, the chemicals are there, but how are these little ones actually being exposed? And what makes them so particularly vulnerable compared to us adults?
Right. This brings us to the critical question of exposure pathways and susceptibility. Research examining airborne emissions in children's bedrooms.
So the air they breathe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Focusing on kids aged, say, 6 months to 4 years, studies consistently found the highest concentrations of these chemicals right in their sleeping environment, near the bed.
So it points strongly to the mattress.
It really implicates mattresses as the primary source of these airborne contaminants. And furthermore, laboratory simulations have provided crucial insights.
Lab tests. What did they show?
They demonstrated that the release of these chemicals from mattresses actually increases significantly with the child's body heat and weight.
Oh, wow. So just them sleeping on it makes it worse.
Basically, yes. Imagine a warm little body pressing against the mattress night after night. More chemicals get released.
That paints a really clear and frankly concerning picture. And why are children at a higher risk from this exposure anyway?
Well, several factors contribute to their increased vulnerability. Firstly, children breathe significantly more air relative to their body weight than adults.
Okay, so they just inhale more proportionally.
A higher concentration of any airborne chemicals present, yes. Secondly, their skin is more permeable, it's thinner.
So they absorb more through contact.
Potentially, yes. Greater absorption of substances they come into contact with. And perhaps most crucially, infants and young children spend a disproportionately large amount of time sleeping,
Right, newborns sleep constantly.
often up to 18 hours a day for infants. This prolonged exposure during critical windows of development leads to a much higher cumulative dose of these potentially harmful substances.
This is increasingly concerning, especially when we consider the potential impact on their rapidly developing neurological systems, their brains.
Absolutely. The research strongly suggests a link between exposure to phthalates and these specific flame retardants and increased neurological risks in developing children.
What kind of risks are we talking about?
We're talking about potential learning disorders, reduced IQ scores, behavioral problems like ADHD symptoms, and even impaired memory function.
That's incredibly serious.
And the timing of this exposure is critical. Early childhood is a period of intense brain development, making them exceptionally sensitive to the effects of toxins. Their systems are just more vulnerable then.
You mentioned earlier, or I think I read in the background, something startling about children having higher concentrations of these chemicals in their blood than their mothers.
Yes, that was a particularly alarming discovery. Studies have indicated that children can have 2 to 3 times higher concentrations of these flame retardant chemicals in their blood compared to their mothers.
3 times higher.
Up to 3 times, yeah.
Uh-huh.
It really underscores just how disproportionately they are being exposed and potentially accumulating these compounds.
That's a stark difference.
It is. And when researchers simulated those nightly sleeping conditions, remember the increased emissions due to body heat and weight.
Yeah.
That raised serious concerns about the potential for long-term neurological damage from this repeated nightly exposure over months and years. It's not just a short-term risk. It could have lasting consequences.
This paints a really unsettling picture. So what practical steps can parents take right now? What can you do to try and mitigate these risks for children?
Okay, yeah, there are definitely proactive measures parents can consider. For one, maybe limit the number of extra items like plush toys and unnecessary blankets in the crib or bed.
Reduce the clutter. Why does that help?
Well, those items can potentially act as reservoirs, trapping or accumulating these airborne chemicals. Fewer items, fewer potential reservoirs.
Makes sense. What else?
Regularly washing bedding and sleepwear is also important. That helps remove any chemicals that may have settled on the surfaces. Use hot water if possible, mild detergent.
Frequent washing. Got it.
And when purchasing bedding, maybe opt for undyed or lighter, naturally colored fabrics.
Why undyed?
They tend to have fewer added chemicals, potentially including those UV filters we mentioned. Simpler might be better.
Okay. What about buying a new mattress? If, say, certified organic options aren't feasible for everyone.
That's a good point. For new conventional mattresses, some experts suggest unwrapping the mattress and allowing it to air out in a well-ventilated space like a garage or porch, if possible for several days before use.
Let it off-gas somewhere else first.
Exactly. This can help to reduce some of the initial, heavier off-gassing of volatile chemicals before the child starts sleeping on it.
Those seem like manageable steps. And looking beyond individual actions, what broader changes are the researchers advocating for? What needs to happen systemically?
Right, the research community is highlighting several key areas for systemic change. They are strongly recommending stricter regulations, specifically targeting phthalates and these organophosphate ester flame retardants in children's mattresses.
Tiger rule.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Also, greater transparency from manufacturers regarding the specific chemicals they are using in their products is crucial.
So parents can actually know what's in there.
Precisely. Empowering parents to make more informed decisions. And finally, there's a significant push to extend the existing chemical safety regulations that currently apply to children's toys.
The ones we talked about earlier.
Yes, extend those to also include children's sleep environments, recognizing the significant and prolonged exposure that occurs there. It's about creating a consistent standard of safety for all products intended for children.
A level playing field for safety, essentially.
You could say that.
Yeah.
It seems logical given the time spent sleeping.
So what does this all mean for you listening out there and the well-being of the children you care about?
Well, it undeniably highlights the often invisible chemical landscape we live in.
And the unique vulnerability of young, developing bodies. It certainly makes you think differently about the bedroom environment.
Absolutely.
This raises a critical question, really. How can we collectively advocate for safer products and healthier environments for our children? It's something worth considering. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.